She would have
and then I'm going to start. I know. People can take things off.
I might be in trouble for doing this. We're about to start. Sorry, I just did a little. They're waiting.
No, but it's good. They can wait. It's okay.
With my grandson yesterday, so I'm he's 21 months, nearly 2. And my son is just wife is just
suppose you need a lot of,
Yeah, just helping out. Yeah. So are you staying up? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
for my body.
Yeah. 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 And so you're here for long? Yeah. And did you come for this reason or it just happened? So how did you?
I saw it online.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Now we're going to start, so we want people to gather not behind us. Well, you could gather behind us, but it won't be the same effect.
Would you like me to stand here and talk?
She went past there. She can see they'll get the message.
Oh yeah. Good if she was here. Okay, so we start a chant, and we're going to chant first, and then we'll hear from Stephen. So if you could put the chant on. And I'm not telling you what it is, you just have to guess. This is one of Pat's favourites, one of many. Good Thank you. Wasn't that beautiful? It's a beautiful chant. And now I'd like to introduce to you Stephen Chong, for anybody who doesn't know him. I'm sure you all do. So Stephen, it's over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for coming to share the life of our beautiful mother. Your presence here fills the heart with gratitude. I'd particularly like to say thank you to those people that are joining us online that couldn't be here today. We've got so many people that knew and loved Mother that are joining us from interstate and international. So everybody's presence here fills the heart with gratitude. We have all in so many ways been blessed to share the life, the love and the wisdom of our beloved Divine Mother. Her guiding light has been as a beacon for all of us. She has touched our lives in so many ways. But I think the old adage stands true, that when the student is ready, the master will come. I guess that means I've been a student for 66 years. Over so many years, Pat has told us her stories, listened to our woes and tribulations, and never once did she turn anybody away. I told Mum once, after how many stories I'd listened to over the years, I said, Mum, I didn't understand any of them. I guess they had some sort of influence. So many people came to see Mum over the years. I often wondered how she managed to fit it all in. So I asked Mum once, who do you see when that person comes up the driveway? And her response was very succinct. She said to me, I see God coming up the driveway. I guess that explains a lot, doesn't it? Over these past months, our family has endured probably more challenges that we are ever going to face again in our lives. Her mum's passing, of course, was so unexpected. I would therefore like to express my gratitude not only to you guys here for coming, but to particular people that have helped us through this challenging time. There are two doctors, Stephen Hay and Stephen Soleras, who loving care, the Kuranda doctors who tended Mum so with loving care. The care nurses at Silver Chain were just fantastic. I would also like to, I can see him, sincerely thank Stephen Devonish for his wise counsel and advice over the period, and also to you won't know these people, but the folks that have helped us with the audio visuals, the Forum for Business Growth in Cairns, and Rachel and Andrea. I can't see her anywhere, but I thank you for all of the things that you've done. But when the going gets really tough, when the challenges are really high, you turn to the crucible of family. To Mum's sisters, Leonie and Janet, and who are with us from Melbourne, and her brother Bruce, who's online, they have been like a beacon of support and love. And their love and support for us as a family goes to show you that love will not be denied. But mostly to my own family. Sorry folks, I thought I'd do it. Camilla, Jeff, Erica, and to this day, I don't know how you did it, Erica. You know, wonderful, wonderful support and for the love of our mum. To my boys who are online, Jaden, Brody and Nicholas, they have been a pillar of support for their father during this time. And it wasn't out of duty, it was done purely out of love. Mum often said to me that the acorn does not fall far from the tree. So, in my fashion as a budding acorn, I'll leave you with a small story. It's a story entitled, I Cannot Say. I cannot say to you to be strong, for I know our hearts are broken. I cannot say to you to stand tall, for I know that we are on our knees. I cannot say not to grieve, for I know the tears wet our cheeks. What I can say is that when our hearts are broken, she will be there to pick up the pieces. What I can say is that when we are on our knees, she will be there to lift us to our feet and dry our cheeks with her love. What she would say is not that. At least I hope she wouldn't. What she would say is go forward now, Master. With that. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. And my heart, on behalf of my family and I, the gratitude from here to you is so profound. Thank you.
Now, I wonder if Pat will do that again. Yes, she is. So I'd just like to say, east, west, north or south makes no difference. No matter what your destination, just make sure you make every journey a journey within. If you travel within, you'll travel the whole wide world and beyond. So now that I've said that little bit, I've got more to say as we go along, of course. But I'd like to call Gavin over now. Oh, here he is, right behind him.
Thank you, everyone. Oof. So good afternoon, all you God-drunken lovers. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gavin. It's such an honour to stand before you today and give testament to the life and the story of the divine at play, being Patricia, Eileen, John. Pat was never one for celebrating anything which involved her being the centre of attention. She would only do so for the benefit of others. Unless, of course, there was pina coladas involved, of course. Pat being that centre point and pivot for many of us here, catapulting us into our own spiritual pathway and fueling the fire to burn away any accumulated dross or sundry along the way. And let's not forget, whenever we would resist change or thought we had attained some lofty heights, she would be there to bring down the wally wally or that hobnail boot to shatter that illusion. As this idealistic figure, Pat could engage with anyone from all walks of life and roll with the best of them. Without separation or judgment, she would take into her stride. Like a master gem merchant, Pat could gaze into the facets of each being, marvelling at the qualities of those who came into her presence, knowing how to work best with each and every one of us, like turning base metal into gold. Pat relayed a short story of a time when shopping to find a certain store. She was stopping at the information stand, looking to find this shop. And in big bold letters, she recounted, in bold print, there was the words, "You are here." Indeed it is so, Pat chuckled. Where else could one be but right here? And so it is for each of us. You are here and present for the purpose of celebrating Pat's life and acknowledging our shared experience in this most wondrous story. Pat often said, all stories are our story. Therefore, Pat's story is our story also. This particular story begins for me some 27 years ago. First meeting Pat on a Friday evening at Gisselle's meditation at Top of the Range. Before we got into the chants, Giselle announced to the group that a special guest would be in attendance this evening, and we were all in for a treat, wondering who this special guest would be. We all waited, and then the door opened, and in walks this petite older lady with short black wavy hair, stellar glasses, and a stylish one-piece jumpsuit. This turned out to be the most memorable evening, and this would set the stage for the ensuing years of profound unfoldment and letting go, of which was not real. In those early days, Pat would quote wisdom and saying from her teacher, Divine Mother, with regards to the 9th pathway to the One, as she called it, stressing it's not for the faint of heart. The 9th pathway was the final pathway of annihilation to God realization. So intense this final pathway, Pat would recount the suggestion by her son Stephen to put a sign at the front gate leading up to the driveway of the house, warning all who enter at your own peril. This 9th pathway can only be traversed when 3 graces are at play, Pat would recount. And these 3 graces are to be born on earth as a human being, to be seeking God, enlightenment or liberation, and thirdly, to be in the presence of a God-realized being, one who knew and had already traversed the 9th pathway to the One. It was clear in meeting Pat that she is the One, although she would never acknowledge this. This One would also acknowledge and challenge us to dare go beyond our present state, to realize the inevitable, we are the One also. Well, that was it. After this initial meeting, we were all hooked, and like true addicts, we would return to her over and over again, longing to be in her presence. Over the years, we would accompany Pat on many a life-changing journey. These journeys took us far and wide and connect with our spiritual families residing in exotic locations such as Brunei, Singapore, and Malaysia, to embrace the Om family, where we experienced the mountain gods at Kinabalu. Myanmar was next to meet the Burmese mother, father, and Winlai, and our devotional family in the land of bliss, golden Buddhas, and temples. Our travels did not stop there. Europe was next, to embrace our Austrian, German, and Slovenian families. Each of these travels culminated in a rite of passage, or initiation of sorts, being a ceremonial event that marked the passage from one social, spiritual, or religious status to another, never to return the same as before we left. Last year, Pat announced a final trip to Europe and Tassie, as there was unfinished business to be attended to. Even though some of us had hesitation, both trips were being organised and were going ahead regardless. Needless to say, the Divine had other plans. In her final days, it was said, it's time to put into action what has been honed over all these years. Now it's time to get on with it. We can no longer pussyfoot around. I would like to conclude with 3 short poems to finish off this testimony. The first being from Hakim Sanai. Were I not intoxicated by my love for you, I fear I might find an easier path, but once having tasted your wine, I abandoned the world of order. The second being the Tao teaching, When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear. And finally, I'd like to conclude with a poem by Dogen. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. When actualized by myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and mind of all others, drop away. No trace of enlightenment remains, and this no trace continues endlessly. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Well, now I'm just going to tell you a little short story that changed my life with Pat, but really it could be quite long because you know how with Pat you'd think that everything was done. And so I went there this day and I'm like, I am going to tell her. I'm going to tell her about my husband, how he is annoying me, what a I was already so off. I go, I sit down and Pat said, so what will we chew the rag about today? I said, hacker. I said, So she just let me rave on and bag him and do all that stuff for at least 7 minutes. And then she totally changed the subject. Just started talking about something else and I thought, has she forgotten? Has she forgotten how important this is? Anyway, just as I'm about to leave, she said, now I just want to tell you a little story, Bonnie. It's about a Buddha. And the Buddha was sent out into the forest by himself with a handful of monks. And when they got out there, they had to start building their monastery. And when they started, they had nothing, no tools, they had to do it all themselves. So anyway, they made mud bricks and they made a wall. 1,000 bricks, she said, they put in that wall. And you know what? The monk would look at it and every time somebody would come through, he'd say, oh yeah, that's the wall that I built, but look at those 2 bricks that are sticking out like that. That spoils the whole wall, doesn't it? So anyway, I go, oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, so at the end, I'm driving home and I went, oh, that's right. Out of, the 998 bricks were right, but I kept looking at the 2 bricks. So when I went home and I said to Hacker, Hack, all that time I've been looking at the 2 bricks. He had no fucking idea what I was talking about. So then I said, so from now on I'm just going to look at the 998 bricks that are all perfect and that will just fit in our marriage perfectly. Thanks to Pat. And Hacker would go like this. Well, Pat's always right with me. Even though you think that you are. And that's when I left the room. I didn't want to have an argument with him over Pat. Okay. So love is the greatest gift of a human lifetime. It's the very essence of our being. Love can help us become a positive force because it inspires more compassion in us. Even though Pat has left the body, every act of love she did, no matter how small, infused in our hearts with the love that ripples through to the actions that we do today for others and ourselves. We may not think of it this way, but on an energy level, acts of love will continue to ripple and to leave a legacy long after our bodies are gone. And that is what Pat has done for us. So now, hang on, I've got a little schedule here that the great Yumin gave me. It would be good if I had glasses. Oh yes, now we've got a video of a song with it's Rachel and
Andrea.
Andrea.
Andrea wrote it.
And Andrea wrote it. Okay then. Oh, we're ready.
And Andrea.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Alame, and this is Rachel Bradley. And we've been going to Pat's meditation group for a number of years now. And we're all going to miss her dearly, but she's here. And in the past few weeks, I've been really inspired to write a song. I couldn't be there today in person, so we've recorded this. And this was written for Pat with love. It's called Tapestry. These are the stories you told. This is the life that you lived. These are the people you loved. This is your tapestry. With every story you wove, another thread to my heart. Beyond space and time, we're never apart. Sages and princes and beggars and kings, through all of their troubles we've come to know things about our own strength and about our own might. The darkness we witness gives birth to our flight. These are the stories you told. This is the life that you lived. These are the people you loved. This is your tapestry. With every story you wove, another thread to my heart. Beyond space and time, we're never apart. Each pearl on the string is a jewel from our past. Wisdom and grace we've earned from the past. And now we move forward and share what we know. With all that you've taught us, there's still room to grow. These are the stories you told. This is the life that you lived. These are the people you loved. This is your tapestry. With every story you wove, another thread to my heart. Beyond space and time, we're never apart. The gift that you gave was how present you were. I felt seen and honored and loved and so heard. Presence and light for each one with the flame. Thank you, beloved, we're never the same. These are the stories you told. This is the life that you lived. These are the people you loved. This is your tapestry. With every story you wove, another thread to my heart. Beyond space and time, we're never apart. With love, dear one. Thank you.
That was absolutely beautiful, ladies. Now I would like to introduce a video of a song. Oh, no, that's right. No, we scrapped them. We just went, no, they're not ready, they're not coming, they're off the program. So instead, I will introduce a live act again, and we have Renee, who is going to play the flute, and it's going to be Amazing Grace. Thank you, Renee. Absolutely lovely. And we know that was one of Pat's favourite songs, Amazing Grace. So now we're going to watch Pat's final story from her last meditation. And who was lucky enough to be there, you'll enjoy this all over again.
There are three things to be shared. The first is an anecdote of Mullah Nasruddin that has a profound intimation to it. And that's the story of when he died and he was placed in his coffin, and they had a wake when everyone cried and wailed and keened. But then they closed the coffin lid and the pallbearers carried him on the road to the cemetery ground to be buried. But they hadn't gone very far when they came to a crossroads, and no one could decide which road led to the cemetery ground. So they placed his coffin on the ground and huddled around together to try to make a decision, when suddenly the coffin lid opened. Mullah Nasruddin sat up and said, "The cemetery ground is that way." So they closed the lid and carried him off to be buried. And the second thing is that over these last days, occasionally there's been a very bold statement made, which was not usual in the way of storytelling. But that bold statement was that the greatest illusion of all is love and light. But it's dared at this time to make another bold statement, and that is that the greatest illusion of all and the bane of mankind is the thought that there is good and evil. And perhaps you'll remember the story of King Solomon. Now, King Solomon, it was known, knew the language of the birds and the animals. He had a magic carpet that could take him to any place in creation. He also had power over the winds. But along with that, King Solomon had a ring on his finger that had engraved, etched in it, those letters that spelt the name of God and gave him powers of which he would never speak. But King Solomon had a very great question that bothered him. And that question was, what is the nature of illusion? And King Solomon knew that the king of the demons, Asmodeus, knew the answer to this question. And as it happened, King Solomon had captured the king of the demons, Asmodeus, put him in chains and placed him in a dungeon in the deep, dark recesses of his palace. But this question ate at King Solomon, so there came a time when he could not resist bringing Asmodeus out of the dungeon, bringing him up before him, and putting the question to him. What is the nature of illusion? And Asmodeus responded, I cannot tell you the answer to your question until you remove my chains and take off the ring that you have on your finger that inscribes the name of God. Now at this time, there was no question about it. King Solomon had the chains removed from Asmodeus, and he took off the ring that he had on his finger. Immediately, Asmodeus took this ring and threw it with all his might, and it flew a great distance where it landed in a vast ocean. And then King Solomon himself felt himself being lifted up and thrown also a great distance, where he found himself washed up on a far distant shore, no longer wearing his royal robes, just the tattered remains of having been buffeted by the sea. And there is a story that goes on, that's been told before, of how King Solomon had adventures. He was taken up by fishermen. He learned the ways of fishing. And then he found himself in the palace of a king. And the story goes on until he arrives at a place where he was given a quest to find a stone, a precious stone to be found in a cave somewhere. And he found the cave, and he found the stone. But just as he was about to fulfill that quest, to bring that gem back to the princess who had requested it, a wave washed into the cave and washed him out into the great and endless ocean, where a Leviathan came and spat out his ring. When this ring was placed on his finger again, King Solomon found himself back in his palace, recognizing that he had never left it, standing before Asmodeus, the king of the demons, and absolutely recognizing and knowing that he now knew the answer to his question, the nature of illusion. Asmodeus, the king of the demons, now released from his bondage, and having fulfilled his task, disappeared, never to return. The greatest bane of mankind is the illusion that there is good and evil. And the third thing is that over these coming days, in the time that is left, and whenever it is possible to do so, there will be the sharing of anecdotes, which we could say will be like beads that you will have to string together to recognize that here there is a story, there is a lineage, there is a purpose, there is a mandate. And whether we've come together just recently or whether we've been together for years, we have to recognize that in coming together, we have woven a tapestry that is almost complete. And that tapestry fits in to the great purpose of life and existence itself. And in the possibility that you can string these beads together, you have the chance to be able to recognize what an integral, unique, and amazing part you play in weaving that tapestry that fits in to the greater matrix, if you can call it that, of existence and its purpose. Those anecdotes will be such things as, how did the golden scarf come to be? What was the purpose of being with Divine Mother? Why were we led to go to Myanmar, where we met the Burmese mother and brought together the devotional lives and the lives of knowledge and experience, and our meetings with the mountain gods in Kota Kinabalu. But these beads will be for you to string together, to understand your own story and recognize your place in it, calling it a tapestry woven in our lifetimes that fits into the purpose of existence and the purpose of existence. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, am I on? Yes. Oh my God, be terrible if I wasn't on. Oh, okay then. And tapestries, yes, I can tell you a little story, quick story. Sorry. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Apparently not. Okay. This is just referring to what Pat had just said there about a tapestry, how you can weave that tapestry into your life. Because this was another time I was going to see her. Not about Hakka this time. This time was about other people. And I went and I thought, well, that's it. Again, I'm going to dob on them. I am going to Pat and I am going to dob on them. So anyway, I get there and I start the whole thing and she looks at me and she went, You know how she'd do this to you? She'd like look at you and go, as if, really, Bonnie? So anyway, I started to bag these people like you wouldn't believe. I was having such a good time. And then she said to me, so I know some people do get under your skin, but what about, the monk in the monastery, remember? And, my mind's starting to go, oh, here we go again, I'm talking about a monastery now, I'm talking about people. And then she said, well, nobody was in that monastery, nobody would come. And then the monk was living there all by himself and they, people from the town, they didn't like the monk living there all by himself. So they just hurled all this crap and shit at that monastery. And he still lived there, he still remained very calm. And then after a while, the people got sick of throwing stuff at him. So they went away. And then the people from the village, then they came, they started to all go to the monastery now, and it all turned out to be absolutely beautiful. Yeah, Pat. So, anyway, and what did she do? She just totally changed the subject and started talking about something else. So I'm driving home going, because really, I am a very simple woman and I don't get things straight away. Has to sink in a bit and then I go, right, okay then. I can do that, Pat. I can be the monk in the monastery. It didn't last for long though. Anyway, now we have a song that Pat has requested that be played because Pat wants everybody to cry. And this song, it will make everybody cry. Okay.
Hear the wind sing a sad old song. It knows I'm leaving you today. Please don't cry, or my heart will break when I go on my way. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, as long as you remember me, I'll never be too far. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. I always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you. See the stars in the skies above. They'll shine wherever I may roam. I will pray every lonely night, but soon they'll guide me home. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, as long as you remember me, I'll never be too far. Goodbye, my love. I always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye. Goodbye and au revoir. As long as you remember me, I'll never be too far. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. I always will be true. So hold me in your dreams till I come back to you.
Okay. Goodbyes are only for people who love with their eyes. There is no such thing as separation. The soul source is immortal. It continues in a totally different form. Right. I just made that up. Not just then, though. Okay, so now we have this is our final chant, which will be on the video here. And then after that, I suppose really, we could, yeah, you could just keep eating. Now, what we would like the thinner people to go first. And then we're not going to go in height, we're going to go in weight, because Pat would not want any of that food left out there. That people have put a lot of effort into baking and making, and so I'm sure that we'll be able to eat it all up. And then really, you can, do whatever you want after that. Do whatever you want. Okay, we're looking at something, Camilla? You can get drunk if you want. It's entirely up to you. Thank you. Now, we're all going to come out of the circle of time and into the circle of love. So in honour of Pat, whoever you are standing next to, I want you to hug them and really you're hugging Pat. So if everybody could do that now, and then you can eat.
Exactly, so it works. Suddenly you feel like, no, I'm not. Oh,
Hello, how are we? Here you go, Gail.
You can drive home and then I can come and pick you up. Do you want a drink? I'm gonna go get a drink. I'm coming back here to you. Yes.
Doesn't really bring up all the stuff. Everything I just do at Rick's side. Oh, Mitchie, I'm so glad you came. You're really That's 9. Remember all that times in Japan? Remember so much driving. Oh, John. Love you too. Oh yeah. Whoa. She's stunning with the scene. What a time.
Yeah, no, I will today.
Nice.
You were going to
Yeah. Not all of it. Yeah.
I'm heading off.
That's right. I should come through that door. Yeah. It was. Absolutely. What a family.
Actually, your son is
Until today. Same. Same.
When you were watching this show. There's something you can't let it quite
and then it comes up with oh, what a journey. Can't wait to see it. The sabbatical. Oh. Exactly. That's it. It's gonna be full on. Can't wait to see it. And be oh, Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Better also into you.
Oh my goodness. It is, isn't it? So hot and light, all the energy. All the gems coming together. It's so intense.
We gotta head off.
Well, not that I would say you make the curry. Yeah, you make the curry. Okay, I'll make the rice.
No, but you know, it's not. It's something.
Yes, you are your birthday.
I know it's quite low. Usually people are
It just gets you right in there.
That's supposed to be on there.
It's funny because a lot of people get too and they all have two stories. Anyway.
Give us something.
So do you want to drink?
I hate standing in front of people like that.
Hey, we're probably gonna head out soon back to things.
Oh, okay. Haven't you in before? Just
I'll be going back tomorrow morning. And we've only came up Friday night. Yeah, just for the weekend.
so we'll see you next time you're out.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch.
Hopefully it's not when the next person pops off.
No, whenever we are. Yeah,
Whenever.
Yeah.
I hate it, I don't like people, I might get that back.